welcome Tom Odell into Noise 11 and a remarkable album to talk about here. And Tom, congratulations on this record.
Oh, thank you very much.
Some amazing songwriting on here. Did you have the songs like kicking around for a while before you went to the studio to record?
Yeah, I did. I took this kind of old-fashioned approach of like writing them all before I started recording. I wrote about 60 songs for a long way down over 2 years, and I sort of recorded about 25, and then we whittled it down to 15, then whittled it down again.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I wrote quite a lot of songs for it. Yeah.
Are they like completed songs that you have that will maybe over coming albums start to surface?
Yeah, but it's funny. It's funny as a songwriter, I sort of permanently want to be moving on. The thought of revisiting old songs, it doesn't really excite me. I want to write new songs. I guess it's like a music listener, isn't it? You want to listen to new songs. You don't constantly listen to old songs. You want to move on. Your song gets boring after a certain amount of time. So yeah, I'd say I think it's important to push yourself along as well.
Yeah, could be a bit like the Rolling Stones with Tattoo You, where they have a whole lot of songs, basically in the bank, and when they reach that drive spell around 1980, it's like, well, we just go back and pick them all out.
Yeah, I mean that's an amazing thing to be able to do. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, imagine having a song like "Start Me Up" as a sort of a reject that is just left over. And
is that right?
Really? plucked out years later. It was written as a reggae song about 6 or 7 years earlier.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, so you never know. We might be seeing some of these Tom Odells on albums to come somewhere down the track. Now, you grew up in New Zealand, didn't you?
Yeah, that's right. Well, no, I grew up.
You lived in New Zealand for a time.
Yeah, for about a year. Yeah. I think I had. It's funny. I've been talking about it a little bit since I've been in Australia. I don't never really think about it other than that, but it's definitely. It's definitely been here. I haven't been back to this side of the world since I left when I was 6 years old, and being here reminds me of it. And I can't quite put my finger on what it is. I think it's like the sky looks a very similar colour, and the air kind of feels the same. It's not anything I can really talk about, but there's something about this side of the world that feels familiar. It's kind of nice feeling,
Into the recording career, and Lily Allen played a part in this. She has a record label, which I only found out as a result of your record.
Yeah. No, I met her in London. I was doing shows in a club in London, and she happened to be at one upstairs at Ronnie Scott's, actually, which is a famous jazz club in London. And it's this little bar. I mean, it's not the main club, and it's about 30 people in there, and she happened to be one of those people. And she, we had a beer afterwards, and she told me about her imprint, and a few months later I signed to her, and I wouldn't be here without her. I'm very lucky to have met her.
The label is In the Name Of. Are you the only artist on that label?
No, there's a band called Colts who released a record 2 years ago. A really good record. And then there's I think they've just signed another artist as well, another male artist, solo artist. They're great. There's two guys that run it. That's it. It's the two guys and Lily, and I'm the two guys are my the best of friends now. It's like it's a very close knit label, and it feels like you're getting that attention that perhaps an independent label has, whereas it's connected to the major label that is Sony as well, so you get all that advantage. I feel, I know a lot of musicians and artists who complain desperately about their label and ride any problems they have on the label, but I can't. I must say, I'm very lucky to have such an enthusiastic bunch of people to work with.
Is Lily actively involved with your recording?
Not so much. I mean, she's really just always let me do my own thing. She's always let me kind of. Part of the reason for signing with her was they stated very clearly from the start that I was able to have complete creative control, and she's just really let me. I didn't really speak to her for 9 months whilst I was making the record, and then I speak to her a little bit more now, and she's definitely given me some. She's been very helpful more in the kind of other side of things, and in whenever I see her, we talk about the side of things that happens when you release music in the UK and you get this other sort of thing happen with it, which is this idea of, not that I think I'm famous, but that there is this, my minor fame that I have brings a lot of baggage with it. She has a lot of experience in dealing with. Yeah,
you sort of didn't think of getting her in to do the occasional backing vocal?
Not so much. I mean, she's quite busy having children, but I know she's I know she's making another album, and she's doing it with a very talented producer who I'm a fan of, and I think she's gonna. I think the world should brace themselves again, because I think it's going to be not long until it's going to be Lily Allen's time again.
You're a big fan of the singer-songwriter, aren't you? When I look at the artists that you say have inspired you over the years, Elton John, David Bowie, Tom Waits, and I'm not seeing a lot of bands in there. Are you somebody who sits there and does study the singer-songwriter and how they structure a song?
Yeah, I think so. I don't study it. I guess I've always been drawn to singer-songwriters. I guess singer-songwriters naturally have a more lyrically led song, because I guess they're more personal, aren't they? Whereas a band, you're speaking from a group of people. A singer-songwriter is talking much more personally, and I have to say I'm always drawn to that as a music listener. Do I sit there and study structures? Not really, no. But I'm always in awe of people like Dylan and Joni Mitchell and Neil Young and those kind of singer-songwriters. Are just the power of their songwriting is just it's incredible. I don't think I'll ever reach that level of. It's not technique. It's just being able to get into their, access their emotions and being so insightful with it. It's amazing.
But what about you? When you actually use friends or family as the subjects of your song, do they recognise themselves in there?
I get asked that question a lot. I'm not sure. I think that I think songwriting you don't have to do much to disguise something, and it's amazing what people don't notice. Yeah.
Francis White, Johnny Latimer, and Andy Burrows co-wrote with you on a few of the songs on here. So some of the songs are just you by yourself, but there are a few co-writes in there. So how does that differ for you?
Well, each one was very different. Andy became a very good friend of mine once I moved to London. Andy Burrows, he was in a band called Razorlight, who I don't know if they're a big.
They've had a bit of success down this way.
Yeah. And then he's kind of been doing all sorts of things in London since then. And he moved to America actually. So, but like a dear friend of mine and someone that played a much bigger role in Long Way Down than just that co-write suggests. Like he inspired me a lot, just as a friend and as a mentor as well. Probably more than anyone else I've met musically wise. I was very lucky. We made some music together, and one of them happened to sort of. Sirens was a song I kind of brought to him, and we sort of worked on it a bit together, and I was hoping to get him to do some production as well, but it didn't work out. But such a talented songwriter and musician, and just he's just. I can't speak more highly of Andy. I'm very lucky to have met him, and I hope I'm able to keep being friends with him. And it was a similar situation with the other writers. Egg White he was going to do some production as well on the record, but another very talented songwriter in London.
Yeah, the songs Can't Pretend, Hold Me, Another Love, and Grown Old With Me, the 4 key tracks, I guess, from the album, the singles that you've had from the album. Why those songs in particular as key tracks?
It's funny. It's funny. I think, as much as I'd like to say, I have creative control over most things, single choice is never something I think that it's kind of in the hands of the gods. What becomes a single. I remember my label saying to me, I said to them, like, let's put out Another Love, and they were like, no way, that's not a single. I distinctly remember having that conversation, and then it's been by far the most successful song on the album, and it's kind of it's funny what becomes singles, and what works as singles and what doesn't work as singles. I guess it depends on how much radio play it gets, whether you make a decent video. I sometimes feel like with singles it's not completely down to the song. There's so many other factors that come in to create something that's successful, and what labels determine as a successful single. How many copies they shift. What determined me releasing those singles, I'm not sure. I'd love to say they meant the most from the album, but I don't think that's true. I think Supposed to Be just means as much to me on the album as Grow Old Me does, but Grow Old Me is a single. Yeah.
Do you have an ear for a hit song? Can you hear a song on the radio that's new and go, yeah, that's going to work, or it's not going to work?
Just as much as anyone else, probably.
Yeah.
I definitely heard Daft Punk's Get Lucky, and I definitely knew that was going to be a successful song.
That wasn't a very hard one to pick.
I think so did everyone else,
Yeah.
It's been interesting. I never really expected Another Love to do. It's done in terms of charting. It's done quite well in the UK and Europe, and I never really thought that song was a single. I always felt that Hold Me was much more of a song that you could hear on the radio, and that didn't do anything in the chart. So it's interesting how songs sort of find their own way. Yeah.
One of the big mysteries of the world, how can anybody have a number 1 record in the UK yet still get a 0 out of 10 from NME?
Yeah, well,
What was your reaction?
Power of the people,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Journalism is music journalism, particularly in the UK, is an interesting, yet entirely uninteresting situation, which I really don't have many thoughts on, apart from the internet is such a powerful thing now, and everyone makes their own mind up about music. You've got about 50,000 people writing their own reviews on YouTube in the comments section. Everyone's got an opinion. Everyone says, one day you can be told, you read the comments on YouTube, sometimes they're horrifically rude and it's almost hilarious, and sometimes they're very sweet. I don't really see it much different from that, It's just one man's opinion against another.
But I guess the fact that they gave you 0 out of 10 and you had a number 1 album clearly means they got it wrong.
Yeah, but I don't think you can get stuff wrong or right in music. I think it's just his opinion. That's the problem with music journalism in the first place. It's not something that you can be right or wrong about. It has to be, subjective. If you could say he's wrong about anything, he wrote about it in a way that it wasn't subjective. He wrote about it in a way that was black and white. And they're for me, my friend, if I meet people that talk about music in an objective way, they're the kind of people I don't enjoy. They tell you which is the best record ever made by the Beatles. I don't think everyone. My guitarist thinks that the best record by the Beatles was Beatles for Sale, and I hands down think that's their worst record. So it's like music is such a wonderful thing in that it's in no way, it's completely subjective. It's completely something that's your own opinion. And so when people ask me what do I think about some fading music magazine in the UK giving me a bad review. I'm honestly not massively bothered about it, as much people think I am. I'm more bothered if 30,000 people on YouTube tell me my video is bad, because I think that's definitely an accumulative bad review, you know, which I should probably start thinking about, you know, which luckily right now hasn't happened yet. But I'm sure if I keep making music at some point it will, you know. Yeah.
Well, I guess this job of yours allows you to do some fun things. You've been on Alan Carr's Chatty Man. Was that a bit of fun, or was that hard work? It looks like a lot of fun when you see it from the TV side.
That one was hard work, you know, because the piano went sort of devastatingly out of tune about an hour before we were meant to perform, and it was funny. Yeah, it was a mad scramble. It's funny how many times that's actually happened. Piano tuner goes, and you're left with this kind of like instrument that sounds like death, you know.
It sounds like you're being sabotaged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I am.
What about Conan O'Brien's show? What's the experience like going on that?
That was amazing. Conan was a cool guy. The other one was Letterman we did in America, which was, I never thought, you know, I remember I've spent several hours of my life scrolling through YouTube looking at interviews he's done with various presidents and you know, and people I admire, and it's crazy to shake that guy's hand, you know. But you realise he's just a human being.
Yeah.
Like all these people. You know?
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's a remarkable album, long way down. Tom Odell, and we thank you for joining us here at noise11.com.
Thanks, man.